Bazo, welcome. This is part 10 of our Faith Incantation run through Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. Last time, we made our way into the Shadow Keep, up through the storehouse 1st, 4th, 7th floor, up to the Dark Chamber entrance, continuing on Ansbach's quest, along with Horn Sense, and then getting some new dialogue out of Letta and Freya, before taking on Mesmer and then making our way to the Viaduct Minor Tower and into ancient or Rao ancient ruins, ending off at the west side of Grace. For items, we got ourselves aspects of the Crucible Thorns, the main Gauche, however you pronounce it. We got the Bolt Drake Talisman +3, the Dueling Shield, the Winged Serpent Helm, the Ash of War Flame Spear, the Faith-based Sorcery Impenetrable Thorns, the Pearl Drake Talisman +3, Remembrance of the Impaler along with Mesmer's Kindling, an Iris of Grace, a hefty Cracked Pot, a good amount of upgraded materials, and then finally ending off with Devonia's Hammer and the Crucible Hammer Helm. And in this part, we're starting off at the Kessel Watering Hole, which we gained access to in the previous part. And here, can we craft them? We can. I was gonna say, I'm just gonna ignore them, but there is an incantation behind them. Not a good incantation, but an incantation. And since this is the Faith Incantation run, not exactly something we would be good for ignoring. We, oh, that kept going for a minute there. Here, there's an old chest. One that you'd see in Dark Souls. And we just didn't want to get hit by this. But here we get giant golden arc. You know what, we can just keep moving. But giant golden arc. Weird Spirit Ash. It's an incantation that sends a single thin but wide golden wave at the enemy. So, truly nothing special, but we can set at this side of Grace, throw it on, use it on a few basic enemies just to show it off. We can get that, because why not? And oh, here it is, right at the very bottom. It requires 34 faith and costs 24 FP. And there are a few basic enemies up here, like fly enemies. As you can see there. So you can just tap it. And it comes out quickly. We'll grant it that. Or you can hold it to charge it a little bit. I don't think charging it does that much. I mean, it's very clearly two-shot either way. And based on how fast it comes out when you tap it, yeah, I think it's better to just spam tap it. Just tap, 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 tap. Because that is very quick. Although, yeah, enemies that are super close to the ground, like these flies and probably dogs as well, no bueno. Though it did look like it had some tracking there. So that's nice. Though, as you can see, it takes a lot of FP. Like, yeah, sure, 24 for a single individual cast. Not a whole lot. But considering it takes 2 to take down a basic enemy, like a fly, that builds up very quickly. There's an early game sorcery. I don't have it, but it goes along with Glintstone Pebble. I think it's called Glintstone Arc, where it's a wide, thin arc. I think this is like the end game incantation version of that. Which, if it is, and it kind of seems like it is, good for it. Kind of good on horseback, where it's less likely to hit the ground. Alright, so just as a quick thing to throw out, when you're on horseback against enemies close to the ground, or like basic soldiers, probably pretty decent. But again, for how little damage it does, it's very expensive. But it's also almost certainly not meant to be used against a single enemy because of the whole wide arc thing. It's almost certainly meant to be used when there's a lot of small weak enemies. Like that group of putrid avatars, I think they're called. Or putrid spirit, something like that. Right at the very beginning of Caelid. Although, when there's a lot of weak enemies like that, it's very easy to just ignore them. Or R1 spam. Though, it's not entirely useless. Oh, wow. We got every piece of their armor set except for the chest piece there. Anything else? No? No? Okay, we can open this door then. Though, I'm actually going to head back before heading down, because there's another path that you can take here. Off this way. Which is also very good. And I'd say is, like, if you're only going to take one path, I'd say this path is actually better. Oh, Torrent. You know you can turn, right? But while the other path just has a single revered spirit ash, this path has quite a bit more. Like, if you try going up the river here, all the way at the very end, past all these flower enemies, which you can very easily ignore, is a Skewtory fragment. That's nice. And then we can make our way all the way back down. Heading all the way south. And as you can see, there are a lot of little enemies, but they're very easy to ignore because they're slow and they don't give much. So, easy to ignore. And as you can see on that route, we got a Somber Stone 7 and 8. Which is nice. Now here, we got the Eastern Nameless Mausoleum. I'm gonna pop this, and here we get Rakshasa. Oh! Ugh. That game stuttered. Which is actually pretty rare. The game doesn't stutter that much. Alright, that just got outplayed. No heal. That's something you see a lot in PvP, is people just spamming skills. Oh, she got knocked back. Nice. Was able to stun her out of that. Nice. But it's especially common when people have, like, the Bull Goat Talisman. Not the Bull Goat Talisman, but the Bull Goat set. Boom. And Rakshasa's down. 216k, Rakshasa's Great Katana, and set. And I think that's a very good example of it, especially compared to the previous run, where no matter how many times FromSoft tries it, dex builds just aren't as good. Like, anytime I go after Rakshasa with a dex build, I rack up like 20 deads. Anytime I go against Rakshasa with a strength weapon, first try. Maybe second try if I was stupid. But yeah, so cool weapon and armor set. Here you get the dry leaf set minus the hat. You get the hat earlier in the run. I showed where to get that. And we can just slowly, safely make our way down. Because it is better to be safe than dead. And then over here, in this little section, there are these two golden hippo enemies. Yep, and they're gonna do the big gold grab attack, which I can only dodge on horseback. And killing them gets you a skidoo tree fragment. However, there's a second golden hippo. So that took them. That stance broke them in 2 shots. Incredible. But that gets you another skidoo tree fragment. And then over here, back near the waterfall, there are more of these things that you can jump down. Don't want to take it too quickly now. Better to be safe than dead. And this is back where we ended it. We can ignore the enemies, it's fine. And then this is the door we opened but didn't go into. So both places lead us here. But in case you didn't catch it, the one path leads us to the Village of Flies, which gets us a single revered spirit ash. Whereas the secondary path gets us not 1, not 2, but 3 skidoo tree fragments, the Rakshasa Great Katana, the Rakshasa set, and the Dryleaf set. And a bell bearing, but I didn't get that because I don't care. Now here we got Darklight Catacombs. And this is one of my favorite, honestly, caves. Not even catacombs, just caves. So the base game has 4 different types of caves. You have normal caves, which have enemies and items, and that's it. And a boss. But then you have tunnels, which are more about being rocky. And they have like rocky enemies and upgrade materials and whatnot. And then you have catacombs, which are more about being places for the dead to rest and skeletons and glowworts. And then you have hero graves, which are like catacombs, but cranked up to 11. And then in the DLC, they added jails. There's one here, which are kind of like normal caves, but with a unique aesthetic. And then they also added rune forges, which are kind of a mixture between tunnels and hero graves, but they're still their own new unique thing. They're pretty cool. But even out of all those, Darklight is one of my favorites. Because it starts out dark, but there are 3 different levers you can pull throughout that grant you light. And I'm going to show where all 3 are, but I'm going to keep the area dark just because I love it. I love being able to look out into an area and just go, oh, that is pitch black. What's out there? And I thought it'd be nice to keep things dark for the Faith run. Because, as a man of God, we've seen the light. We don't need these torches. We don't need these candles. We have the guiding light of God within our hearts. And that's all we need. Yeah, see, you thought the bit was gone. But no, it's back. And here you can drop down. And then there's a ladder here, and you're not really supposed to notice this until after you turn the lights on. But we knew it was here already. You know why? God told us. Ow. And you see? Sometimes God tests you. But all you have to do is have faith. So long as you have faith, you will survive. Second lever is right there. You just go here, you turn around, ladder, you climb up, and it gets you there. But instead of doing that, we're gonna drop down here. We're gonna sip this. I did not think that was gonna one-shot. I really did not think that was going to one-shot. But okay. We can take them out. And here, we can get the Death Knight set. And this set, Golden Helm of the Death Knights, whose own death masks serve as the Visards, however you pronounce that name, of their armor, enhances skills and incantations of the capital's ancient dragon cult. The decayed golden wheel that adorns it represents their unbroken loyalty to Godwyn, who became the Prince of Death. And we're going to throw this on, because enhances incantations. It's about Godwyn, one of America's children. And also, it just looks so cool. I've said it before that the knight armor sets in Elden Ring, I really don't like. Mostly because of their capes. Because I think their capes just look gross. Like the Godric Knight, Cuckoo Knight, Haligtree Knight, so on and so forth. I really just don't like their capes. But this cape being ripped and worn, and it's wider and in a unique shape. Uh-oh. You just had to have faith. Just had to have faith. Look at that. Fell right on top of him. You'll love to see it. Yeah, running with this, they were loyal to one of America's children, a demigod, or a man of God. It's a new unique armor set, so we get to show that off. And it enhances incantations. Only certain incantations, but still incantations. So, we can say it's a faith armor set. Smack. Now here, you can just run straight forward. And this lever right here turns on the final set of lights. And, well, the first two I didn't light up, or at least didn't keep them lit up. This one, lighting up brings this pillar down and allows you to kill that enemy. So we'll light that one up just for that, because it has a practical use beyond lighting. But now we can head down. And up here is a boss that actually uses the giant golden arc, which is kind of unique. Although, they're also in water, so I feel like instead of trying to match them, giant golden arc to giant golden arc, I feel like Knights of Lightning Spear would be better. Although they do spawn multiple weak enemies, so... And giant golden arc comes out quicker. Oh, Yep. And yet, this boss is pretty unique. Okay. Ow. Yeah, they're pretty unique in the sense that they're like a magic wielder, but with incantations. Sir, why are you bringing big guy against me? Let me backstab. Ow, 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 ow. Who pulled the flamethrower out? But yeah, he also summons. Like a lot. And also teleports. Oh! My weak, frail bones. And yet, when I said he summons a lot, whatever you thought I meant by a lot, you did not think enough. Because he summons a lot. And the only way to even somewhat stop that... Ow, ow, ow. My bones. My weak, frail, holy bones. But yeah, so it's very easy to deal with a ton of magic spam. Because you got him spamming magic. You got him summoning people who use magic. You got that really big attack from him. You got the big guy who shows up once every 4 seconds. I didn't even realize that. Those who weren't reaching him. And I very well may die here. Nope. Ooh. 0 Crimson Flask, 0 Cerulean Flasks. 202 HP, 16 FP. So in case you couldn't tell, I wasn't really taking that seriously. But I do enjoy them as a boss. They're not my favorite, but I do appreciate that they're unique. And that they're one of the better magic bosses, especially holy magic bosses. But I wish that they didn't have the... I wish they reworked how the boss did the summons. Because they're just like infinite summons endlessly. I'm not a fan of that. I wish that they summoned a group of small Inquisitors when the boss gets to like 70-75% health, and then summoned the big Inquisitor and maybe another like 2 or so small ones when the boss gets to like 40% health. So it's 2 small, simple, not small, but 2 like predetermined, very clear summons, and that's it. And I feel like if they had just done that, I feel like that would have been an A-tier boss for me. But I can't really put them above like low B tier because of how the summoning is currently. But if they just reworked the summoning a little bit, which they could probably do in like a day, honestly. I've never made a video game. I've never coded. So I'm not sure, but like there's nothing fundamentally changing about the boss. They're not like adding new attacks or anything. They're just... I mean, it really just would be honestly limiting how much the boss summons to 2 predetermined points in the fight. And if that very simple metric was met, which again would probably... Again, I'm saying this as someone who's never made a video game or coded before, but it would probably be pretty easy, I would imagine, and it would make the fight significantly better. But right now, as a concept, I like the boss. In practice, I don't dislike the boss, but they can be very hit or miss. Like, the first time I played an aggressive strength build, and they were incredibly fun. And that's something you'll probably notice. Strength builds that are super aggressive, you tried, bud. But aggressive strength builds make the fight more fun. Whereas more passive builds, or builds that aren't as good at stun locking or stance breaking, not as fun. But still. Like, even the way that I was playing it, like very passively, very letting the boss control the tempo of the fight, where there's tons of summons and I'm constantly dealing with summons and new summons and magic spam and that big guy doing his flop attacks. Even with all that, where I think the bosses at their least fun are still decently enjoyable for me. Like I said, low B tier. But if they just did a little rework to how the summons are, I'd probably consider them to be a high A tier fight. Or at least mid A tier. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Born Calling. It's just too fun. Takes a lot of stamina, but slam. Like, the animation is so satisfying. The audio, like, you can hear the crunch. You can hear how crunchy it is. It's so good. I love it. Here, another Scuttle Tray fragment. And then we can head back to here. We have 2, we need 3. Okay. Here, hide yourself. Make not a sound. Quietly await your chance. Combat is not an option. Crouch in the undergrowth. Oh, I don't have it. I normally have Krupus's Vial, which allows you to walk silently. And that allows you to run without worrying about them. Now, in the previous run, the int run, I showed off a little trick that completely nullifies these enemies, or at least mostly nullifies them. And as fun as I think that is, and as much as I do it almost every single non-recorded run, I think I'm gonna give them the respect that they deserve this run. Also, for the Elden Ring Night Rain trailer, there was one where the spider, or where there was this area and there was a spider running through it. And a lot of people were saying that those were the Bloodborne spiders, like Rom's spiders. And after rewatching the trailer, I don't think that's correct. Oh, dude, not a good idea. But I think that they're the Dark Souls 2 spiders. Freya's ones. Could be wrong about that. I could very much be wrong about that. Considering I've only played 2 very short runs of Dark Souls 2 before. And I never actually beat the game at this point. So I could be very wrong about that. But I have played a ton of Bloodborne. It is probably my most played game of all time. And the spiders just don't look the same as the realm spiders to me. So, I think they might be the ones from Dark Souls 2. And there was another trailer very recently that I believe showed Freya from Dark Souls 2 as a boss. So, methinks... Nice shot. But methinks they're the Freya spiders. Don't get me wrong, as much as I would love more Bloodborne, I'm not entirely sure if they're even allowed to use enemies from Bloodborne. Like, I legitimately think they might not be able to, legally speaking, because of SotE. So, Bloodborne, it is my favorite game of all time. I mean, Elden Ring, very, very, very strong contender. And my answer can change day to day, honestly, but Bloodborne, I'm gonna say it. Bloodborne, favorite game of all time. At least as of early 2025. And so, I would love to see Bloodborne stuff in Night Rain.
Eve. Now, come no closer. No closer, I say. The madness wears.
So anyways, we don't have the thing to raise that. Anyways, this is a really nice painting. I like it a lot. Kind of sucks that you have to get rid of it. Now that enemy you can just walk around. I'm gonna fight him though. But yeah, I would love to see Bloodborne stuff in Night Rain, but I don't think they can, legally speaking, because SotE has the rights to that. I think. I'm just as I'm not a video game developer, I'm also not a legal expert. Shocking to no one. Smack. Yeah, so... Oh, hey. Second one of these. Nice. Oh yeah, so... Not 100% sure on that. But I don't think... they can put Bloodborne stuff in Night Rain. Which, assuming that's true, that really sucks. But... that's just what I'm going with. And so if there's no Bloodborne stuff, low expectations means I won't be disappointed, or as disappointed at least. But if there is Bloodborne stuff, then I'll be even more excited than before. Having low expectations is a win-win, because it's more difficult to be disappointed, and it's easier to be excited. BMA. But that's just kind of what I'm going with right now. Anyways, I did get the digital deluxe edition, and I pre-ordered that. And in Elden Ring, if you got... There's a certain gesture that you can get if you pre-ordered the game called the ring, where you do like an O with your arms above your head. And if you pre-ordered the DLC, you get Ring of Mikula. And if you do co-op with someone who has one of these while you don't have them, you get them. And the DLC, or not the DLC, but Night Rain also mentioned that pre-ordering gets a gesture. And so, considering I pre-ordered the game, I'm getting the gesture, and if it works like Elden Ring, doing co-op with someone who has the gesture will... Or doing co-op with someone who pre-ordered will also get you the gesture on that character. This is another painting that I really like. Kind of sucks that you have to get rid of it. It's very unfortunate. But anyways, so if my assumption on that is correct and you do get the gesture, or if you just want someone to group up with so you're not playing with randoms, feel free to comment. Because I am definitely very open to playing with people. Doop. Especially because most of my friends don't play these games. Most of my friends... You'll love to see it. But most of my friends play either Call of Duty, Overwatch, I started running a bit too late. Breathe fire. And for some reason you can backstab these enemies, which looks a little comical considering how tiny you are compared to them. But anyways, like I was saying, if you want someone to group up with for Night Rain, I'm here. I am definitely open to playing with other people. And while I'm not the best player, as should be obvious, I feel like I'm decent enough. I feel like I can hold my own. Especially because I'm someone who plays several different playstyles. I mean, I mostly go with strength builds, but I do dex builds. I've done a few in builds. I've done a few strength builds. I'm probably going to go, like, when I play Night Rain, I'm not going to go with a Wilder, because a Wilder seems like the most popular, and I have a personal rule of just not going with the most popular thing. Like in Call of Duty, there was a map called Origins, and there are 4 different elemental staves, and everyone wanted the fire staff. It was the most popular one, and people would legitimately just leave games if someone else got the fire staff. And so I had a personal rule of just never taking the fire staff, because then I would never fight with anyone. And I usually, because whenever someone doesn't get the fire staff, they want the lightning staff. And so I personally would either go with the ice staff, because that was the third option, but it was secretly the best, and no one ever figured that out. Or I'd go with the wind staff, because even though it was the worst staff, it was still pretty decent. My honest reaction to using the wind staff. But it was still decent enough, and I was skilled enough to get by with it. I wasn't a crazy good player in God Zombies either, but I could get around like 25 to 30.
Depths of your foolishness!
So I was okay. I feel like that's my specialty, is not really being good, just being okay, but having that be enough. Because I'm not aiming to be the best. I'm aiming to be someone you can count on, to be there as a constant, but not as a carry.
Enough.
Okay, I'll stop talking then.
I have endured more than enough. I ask you forgive me, dearest Nanaya.
And you gotta love Midra. Or at least I have to love Midra. Partially because they're a great boss. Partially because they have Frenzied, which is super scary, but they keep things both fresh and fair. I thought they were going to do the follow-up. It's like, they're fast, they're a weird off-tempo boss. And they have Frenzy, which is super dangerous. I rolled too early. And so, I rolled too late. Like, everything about them makes you think that they would be, like, hated and overpowered and BS, but they're actually one of the easier bosses. And I think that they're incredibly well designed. Visually, as a fight, the song, the story, the art in the area. Like, by far my biggest complaint about Midra is that the area is too small. And it feels like a minor dungeon instead of a legacy dungeon. But you also gotta love them because they're repping the greatsword. And while I'm not doing it this time, greatswords are the best weapon class. But with that being said, I think we can end it here. We started off all the way here at the Castle Watering Hole. We made our way to the ruins of Unte, to Recluses River upstream, then downstream, Village of Flies, Darklight Catacombs, into the Abyssal Woods, over to the abandoned church, and then down into Midras Manse, taking on both Jori and Midra. For items, we've gotten ourselves the giant golden arc, dryleaf seal, Rakshasa's great katana and armor set, the dryleaf set, the Viridian Amber Medallion +3, the Death Knight set, a Great Ghost Glowwort, the Barbed Staff Spear, the Matting Hand, the Frenzy Flame Perfume Bottle, some more upgrade materials, Nanaya's Torch, some more upgrade materials, and Remembrance of the Frenzied Flame. And I said it in the last run, I'll say it here again. My biggest complaint about Midras Manse is that it feels like a minor dungeon instead of a legacy dungeon. And I wish that this room was a bit shorter, so having the stairs be like, say right here, instead of where they are, so the room's a bit smaller, and to have a different boss be here. You know, maybe have like a different new boss in Darklight Catacombs, and then have Jori be in this room, and then to have, instead of a wall here, instead of just a wall, have like an opening or a doorway that continues on this way, because as you can see, there's plenty of room here. And just to have like a second half of Midras Manse that ends with Midra. Because I think that would make this area a lot better. And this is already one of my favorite areas and one of my favorite bosses. It's just so short, especially compared to how big the Abyssal Woods is. Especially considering the Abyssal Woods doesn't let you ride on Torrent. It makes Midras Manse feel even smaller in comparison. So I just wish Midras Manse was bigger. But with that being said, we made very good progress. I didn't think we were going to be able to do this in under an hour, but we did. So I'm very happy with that. And yeah.